What's good, everybody? We got 10 sections today, and I know you want to clap, you want to applaud. Oh, Freak Pip, you're my favorite, we missed you. But listen, we got a lot to cover. Let's get straight into it. Section 1, basic controls. Nothing really notable here except the fact that feinting does not exist in Veilbound. Instead, players can hold their attacks to charge them, delaying the hit for combos, right? Chargeable moves include M1s, line attacks, criticals, sprint attacks, and aerial attacks. Section 2, combat mechanics, or mechanics that directly affect combat. The first up, we have jabbing, right? To use jab, you just click T, and it's a quick get off me option for all players, right? Some effects slash usage is that jabbing does very little damage but can serve several purposes. It can push opponents away, it can continue a combo, and it can end a combo initiated by somebody else. Next up, we have air braking, right? What is air braking? Air braking allows players to instantly teleport and hit an opponent who's airborne, right? You usually just click M2 or right click to use it. I'm guessing you'd have to put probably your cursor over them from the way I saw it. You can use it to catch runners or people who are mid-air, especially if, like, let's say someone's trying to play track star, right? They're jumping around, they're playing around, like those Battlegrounds games. You can put your cursor over them while they're mid-air and click M2. I'm not sure if someone can just jump and then you can use it, because if that is, that would probably be pretty busted, to be honest. It can be used to turn the tide of battle by allowing players to capitalize on airborne opponents, just to get that special sentence in there. Uppercut, it's uppercut. Okay, I don't know what you really expect. Hold down right click and perform a left click to execute an uppercut. Same as any other game. Air combo defense, right? If you're caught in an air combo, players can parry one single attack to escape. You cannot fight back, and you only get one chance to get out of it, or else you're going to be stuck in the air getting, like, wailed on, right? And you cannot block at all. You have to parry. You have to parry. You cannot block. Now on to auras, right? To unlock an aura, you need to just progress through the game for the way they said it. It allows players to customize their approach to offense and defense in fights. Keybinds and usage would be E as the keybind, single press to activate a pulse, holding down charges your aura. I'm not sure if this is like Rogue Lineage with to charge your mana or anything, but from the way it looks, it doesn't seem like that. Now getting into some mechanics, pulse, which is just the quick click. When you pulse after hitting an opponent, you perform a shatter. It refunds aura and briefly stuns the victim, which seems like, I don't know, Black Flash or something, right? Harness, which is charging your aura. If you pulse right as you are hit, oh, this is not charging your aura, I lie, this is just when you click it as you're getting hit. We see this a lot in the Veilbound combat, a lot. This has been in like some of the earlier combat trailers too. Especially one in an earlier video. I know Velect did one. I love you, Velect. But anyway, harness mechanic. If you pulse right as you are hit, it activates harness. It reduces damage taken and nullifies the shatter effect, which would briefly stun you and refund their aura, right? In general, I'm pretty sure it just reduces damage, but if they are trying to do the shatter, it will stop them from getting the benefits of the shatter, allowing you to punish them or get out of any way that you could be punished in that situation. You can normally charge your aura by holding E for future use, which means it might be something like Rogue Lineage mana. Colors are purely cosmetic, with rerolls being a way to change the color. Now, this next one has something to do with food. So like in Minecraft, eat that golden apple, nom nom. But heartburn is a system to prevent players from spamming food and drinks for health and buffs during combat scenarios. Basically, overdosing. You basically overdose on food. It gives the buffs when filled, right? Because it's going to be a bar, and if you just you're being fat, you're eating too much, it's going to give you a debuff. It's going to stop you from being able to take all those heals, take those buffs mid-match, which means Veilbound might be about quicker combat in general and quicker things instead of long drawn-out fights like Deepwoken can become, right? And that might be interesting because quicker fights when we're doing like giant ganks would be a lot more interesting, but that also comes to affect how powerful are the weapons and why would it be going so quick, which could be a problem if stuff is too overpowered. Other than that, I think that sounds pretty interesting. I'm not gonna lie, I like heartburn because it stops like people are just gonna run around and eat and spam stuff, because that's a big problem in Deepwoken. I'm gonna keep comparing it to Deepwoken because Deepwoken, it's a hot mess right now, to say the least. And I need a game, bro. I need a game. I need a game. Please. Please, just something new. Anyway, moving on. Getting into basic mechanics, or section 3, we have wall run. You can wall run when there is a wall either to your left or to your right. The keybinds are just clicking A or D respectively to initiate it. I'm guessing you have to be midair, you have to be like pushing up against the wall, but I'm sure that'll work fine. It allows you to enhance mobility and opens up new tactical options during exploration and combat. We've seen some very interesting uses of stuff like weapon criticals, aerial attacks to continue mobility, and seeing stuff like that worked into combat would be really interesting, to be honest. This has been a pretty big question. This gets asks I can word so well. This gets asked here and there, but is there a permanent death system? No, there's no permanent death. Instead, there's a system that allows players to recycle their slots voluntarily. The penalties for death do get worse the more you die. I'm guessing it's something like Sifu, I think it's called, like the more times you die, the older you get, and like the worse your character becomes. I'm not 100% sure though. Is there a hunger mechanic? Yes, there is a hunger system in place. It does not significantly hinder gameplay unless traveling frequently between locations. So I'm guessing on like Deepoken, this is going to affect more stuff like your stamina, and stuff that won't matter as much in combat, which not gonna lie is kind of nice. And then there's also the best part, you can gritty with your friends. You got the emote system. They're automatically synced with those around you, allowing you for expressive interactions among players, right? So you want to pop the gritty, or like the goopy, or the splooge. Great moves. I pop them all the time with my friends, and we all just sync up, and we all go at it for a little while. Great time. Personally, I love it so much. Section 4, rank and progression system, right? Now, before we get in, we need to understand the difference between ranks and levels, right? In Veilbound, there is no traditional levels. Instead, progression is based on ranks. I'm pretty sure it's going to be similar to something like Type Soul, but actually good. Okay, actually good. No one likes the progression in Type Soul, and if you do, you're psychotic. You are psychotic. For another explanation I have here, it's, for instance, Ripped mentions being an EX rank, which kind of sounds like Type Soul again, but it should be better. It shouldn't be shizzy. As players progress, they are classified into higher ranks. That's obvious. There are thresholds, rank thresholds. Think of ranks as thresholds indicating your level. For example, ranks may range from F rank levels 1 to 10 to E rank levels 10 to 20. It depends how many like levels we want to think of it as. It'll probably be different. Something like F rank is levels 1 to 3, and then it goes up to like 30 levels in total when comparing it to levels and ranks. But there is something called a over-leveling system or mechanic. It allows players to exceed their highest potential, which sounds interesting, but also it sounds like a normal buff. I don't think it'll be anything crazy personally. I think it'll be whatever. Not super overpowered, but something like, oh, you get this cool little buff. Your medium rare cooked steak blows up when enemies eat it or something. Or like just like a 5% to 10% damage boost. Section 5 is another short one. It's just secret arts and classes. Introduction is that there are ways to obtain classes known as secret arts. Specific methods for obtaining these arts have not been disclosed yet. Affection towards builds, right? It can change up builds from offensive and aggressive to defensive and passive. Like, I'm pretty sure he said something about being able to take a bunch of damage from your weapon and then getting a bunch of health from it, which might mean that there is certain paths you can take and certain metas you can be to like actually like do stuff like boss raid or do a track star build, which is normal. But seeing how this, as explained, could completely change up builds like from like one way to another, a complete 180, that'd be interesting. Passives and other add-ons that arts and classes include can be swapped out and mixed to provide certain gameplay paths that can be customized to personal play. Which, extra build customization, I'm not complaining personally. I like the idea that they can like swap them out and try different things. Section 6, economy and factions, right? So it's been explained that there's going to be like an actual economy. If a faction is doing worse in the war, it's going to be making less money. Things might go up in price. Things might be harder to buy and more scarce. Here on my script, I have written down that there is a dynamic economy system. It fluctuates based on faction performance. If a faction struggles or loses sieges, their economy will be affected. We're not sure how widespread it'll be. Like you lose one siege and your economy's dying, the king is dead, the plague roams the lands. Or if it's like, oh yeah, everything went up by like 1 or 2 gold. And then like if it's like that, that won't be half bad, to be honest. Sieges haven't really been explained, but they occur when there are multiple factions present on one server. So it kind of sounds like, you know, big guild wars. But guilds are different, actually. I'll explain guilds later. But participating in sieges can yield significant rewards that boost progression, which kind of sound like the things from Type Soul. I forgot what they're called, but it's going to be less King of the Hill and more focused on killing and helping your team survive in general. So like if you're a freshie, there's probably not much you can do. But like if you're sitting there just stealing bodies, that's probably the only thing you could do. But also be careful because no one likes a kill thief, I'm gonna be honest. Now my personal favorite part about this is the language system. An overview is that players can choose from several factions upon spawning, each with its own unique language. You can also learn languages, because players have the opportunity to learn additional languages throughout the game world. Currently there's only around 10, but to be honest, 10 languages is kind of impressive, especially if they all have 24 characters. But I know in real life some languages have less or more. So either way, I feel like that's pretty cool that they're trying to do languages in general. I'm yawning, I don't want to yawn, please, thank you. Certain NPCs may only communicate in certain languages, requiring players to learn certain languages for effective interaction. So like if you have to do a quest, or like you're trying to find something in specific for a build, and it's like behind an NPC that doesn't speak your language, what are you going to do? What you can do? Learn that language, or find a different way to break the language barrier, but I don't think there will be. The purpose of languages is to facilitate communication between other players and NPCs that are specifically on your side mainly, but you can also understand different ones to unlock quests or dialogue options to enhance, you know, different parts of the gameplay. And overall, I think having a different language system is really interesting, especially coming from a nerd who really enjoys NPCs. Not NPCs, but D&D. Because can you imagine if you're trying to play with your buddy and you guys aren't in VC, you kind of speak to each other via game chat, you're kind of trying to understand what his language means. But I'm guessing it'll only be weird symbols if you can't understand it, but it'll be like whatever language you actually speak, if you both speak the same language. I'm honestly hoping that they add some D&D languages, like Celestial will be pretty cool, or maybe Draconic, ooh, maybe Deep Speech, Dwarven, Goblin, ooh, that'd be sick, I'm not even gonna lie, that'd be awesome. Section 8, lower end PC support. There are settings designed to help them and handle the game effectively. The developer said they're actively working on addressing performance issues related to the settings or anything else that they can fix. But at the end of the day, Roblox is the main problem with performance, and so there's really nothing that the Veilbound devs can really do to help fix it. They can try to make the game smaller, but at the same time, we see with Depot and they're like, oh, we made the game so much smaller, we fixed the pathfinding. And you still join the game, you're at 300 ping no matter what server you're in, let's be honest. Section 9, community interaction and updates. There are many community engagement opportunities that players can take a part of, like different events when the game comes out and over time, where players can earn titles or other stuff, right? Events may impact lore or mechanics based on player participation, right? So like, you know, Fortnite live event, Travis Scott and Veilbound confirmed, right? We're gonna get Travis Scott, we're gonna have Drake, we're gonna have a Diddy party in Veilbound. You hear that? A Diddy party in Veilbound. Ain't no party like a Veilbound party, okay? But realistically though, they do have regular updates planned, which does sound really nice to be honest. They plan roughly monthly updates to introduce new content mechanics based on community feedback, and they say based on community feedback. But you know, look at Deepoken, bro. Look at Deepoken. They have no good community feedback that they listen to, right? So personally, I'm hoping that they do listen this time and they listen to like what people have problems with, and they'll do votes like, guys, we move this part of the map to give people better optimization, or do we keep it and try to fix what we can, right? Stuff like that would be interesting, especially if they are open to stuff like that. I do like how they do say that it's going to be based off community feedback, and here goes to hoping that it really is based off community feedback and not just how they feel. Now, finishing off with section 10, I actually got through this a lot quicker than I thought I would, but that's kind of nice because I got AP government finals the day this goes out. But you know, we ball. Anyway, the importance of races, right? Race will not be a super important thing when it comes to passive or making builds. Most races can fit any build in most cases. You can use certain races to fully optimize min-max builds, maybe similar to Deep Pokin, but we don't really know what he means when he says to fully optimize builds. I'm not sure if it's going to be like racial traits like Vesperian from Deep Pokin, or if it's going to be like stats, right? We don't know at this point, and there hasn't been anything new on it. Will there be ranked and competitive play? There are plans for it, but no plans for a specialized game mode like Chime or Arena, is something he said. He said something about Arena. I don't really know what he said about it. But ranked, it might be more as in like global leaderboards, which in my opinion are kind of fucking ass. No one wants to sit there and try to compare themselves to people who just have way too much time, because if you got a job and you just want to come home and do ranked and earn ELO, that'd be a lot better than someone who's cheesing out kills, right? And especially if they do it like that where it's global, that's going to be disgusting, because people can try that, and it's not going too well right now, especially with the guilds and the global leaderboards with the guilds, because other guilds are just playing other guilds to give them grip so that they can get the top by just giving them items. Like, yeah, it's a cool way for the community to interact, but that's not legit, because then all the smaller guilds, or like guilds that are actually trying to gain, can't really compete if they're having servers dedicated to just one guy in a guild gripping 30 people in a different guild for points. So I'm hoping that it is more something like ELO based, instead of just globally, because I'll be honest, if it's global, I'm not going to participate at all personally. Next thing I have is boss difficulty. Bosses will be harder the more friends you have, kind of like how Duke's health scales. Soloing bosses will require a very high level of skill. So currently I'm pretty sure that it's supposed to be more like raids. You're supposed to have a bunch of people with you in majority of cases, but soloing is still entirely possible and not impossible. It just takes, you know, a bunch of skill. RNG won't play a major role in Veilbound, whether that's builds or aura color, right? While RNG may still be used, it won't be as major as some games make it, like Deep Pokin. Like, have you seen that new Dormant Needleman? Or Dormant Splinter? That thing's super rare. It's horrendous. And I also like the fact that they're doing less RNG, because it makes things more certain. But hopefully it's not such little RNG that it's like type Soul. It should be a good mix where you don't have to spend 13,000 hours to get one weapon, but also that you don't spend 10 minutes getting one weapon. I feel like when it comes to farming, anywhere between 2 to 4 hours is like the ideal amount, right? Anything over that, in my opinion, is just it becomes a waste of time. Next up, we have modifiers. There are modifiers that can change your build and playstyle. They can change the way your weapon may behave in combat, possibly having a drawback for a positive weapon change, or giving you a buff for a negative weapon change. This goes back to the things I was talking about earlier, where you can buff your weapon for more health or nerf your weapon. No, nerf your weapon for more health or buff your weapon with less health and change up the way your build works, right? So like, if you're trying to make a boss raid build, you could sacrifice your ton of health for a little bit more damage, or vice versa, depending on what you're trying to go for. Next up, we have the player's ability to change the map and lore. Players can change the map, lore, buildings with approval from the devs. Devs are interested in seeing the way players may change the game. It will be a very, very, very rare occurrence to happen during public release and play, right? Because you're probably going to need to get like a giant guild that is very influential in not just the game, but the community itself. Probably in a more positive way too, unless, you know, the devs want to play devil's advocate. But like, you know, when the game gets started up, I'm going to start a guild personally. I know I got Veilbound, and honestly, we should try to make it as big as possible. Make it as big as possible. I feel like that'd be golden. Can you imagine the biggest guild? Oh my goodness. Anyway. Specs, like dev specs, is a very big thing in Deep Pokin, and everybody hates them. There's like, now if it's a spec that doesn't do damage, it's like the main, that's funny, that's cool. Like skeleton key added to public, that's cool and all, but like they don't really plan to have specs, which personally, I love that they don't plan to have specs. They think it's a wasted time and stupid since they want a similar play as their own players, which honestly, I am really proud, not proud, but really happy that they said that, because even Rag Ruser doesn't play Deep Oaken normally. You don't see a single dev play the game normally. They always got these specs, and it's really hard to beat them. I know I fought a mod one time, and bro, when he gets lows, he just flies away. He flies away. It's so annoying, man. Like, I get if there's a story-related thing, but if you're making it to the point where you just can't do anything, it's so annoying. It makes it less fun to play. They may add specs, but the current consensus is there'll be little to none, and if there are any, they'll be cosmetic purely. Kind of like Supa and Valakis's, little League of Legends blades. Boss rating. This was a small topic touched on barely, so I'll just go over it real quick. But there's builds that specify in boss rating can receive buffs while boss rating, which then goes back to stuff like, maybe like, you can compare it to like Authority Commander and Deep Oaken, but like, so you do 20% more posture damage when you hit one opponent and then another, or different stuff like that that grants buffs when there's multiple opponents included. Anti-gank mechanic for stuff like lower levels. There's no real anti-gank mechanic. You only get lesser rewards for ganking low-level players at a high level. It is possible as low level to be a high level, but that's the same as any game. It's always skill dependent. But it depends how skill dependent it'll be, right? Because if there's too little of a gap, then what's the point of leveling up unless you're just trying to go for cool stuff? And if there's too big of a gap, it might make it terribly unentertaining for low levels. Personal opinion, they should make low-level servers and then high-level servers for people just looking for that, and then a place in between for people to go to, or a place to go to if you've died or killed a lot of people. For example, if you've killed a bunch of low levels, you should be moved to like a middle level server to fight higher level people because your skill level is just higher. But at the same time, why would someone who's low level want to even grind if they're just getting gripped and destroyed half the time? So I feel like that's the best thing they could do. Well, like if someone reaches a certain kill threshold or kills this certain amount of players within an hour, they should get sent to middle level servers to fight higher level players and be with higher level players since they want to grip low level players. But that might also cause other problems like not enough players here or there. So it all depends on how that'll work. But currently there's no really anti-gank mechanic planned at all. Story, well, there's no main story. There are some sidelines you can follow throughout the world, but other than that, there's no story like Duke or like Deep Oaken at all. I know they plan to have lore, but they do not plan to have any role playing at all right now. Maybe an in-game story though. We have no idea though. Okay, so map details is that the map will be split into 3 different parts that are instanced, kind of like Song Seeker or the East and then Etrian Luminant. Depending on how big they are will also be a major factor in how much stuff lags, because if it's just one giant map on both sides and it's still super laggy, that's gonna really suck, I'm gonna be honest. Fast travel is possible, so that's nice to hear. Getting into like yawning, please stop yawning, oh my god. But getting into weapons, armor, and etc. 3D armor will be a thing. More of everything will be added as time goes on. Transmogging will not be possible, or is likely to not be possible. As Rip says, he wants players to sacrifice stats for drip and vice versa. You can change your keybinds to personal likings. The Discord will now be opened indefinitely. The Discord will no longer be closed. I'm not sure if he means like general will always be open or anything. But the Discord will always be open. A little bit about dungeons. That dungeons are giant, some are small, and some are labyrinths, which is something pretty interesting. And whatever it is, they made a very big deal about the Citadel. There's something called the Citadel that is apparently some sort of secret or some place that they do not want anyone outside of players to know about right now. They should have leaked it though, that would be sick. And the final detail they gave us was that there's an elusive meaning behind the game's name, Veilbound. Whether that means he's bound for the veil. But real quick, hold up, I'll pull it up right now. That's probably not professional. But recently, there was this thing where Rips went into the Discord, right? and he was kind of talking for a while, and he gave us some insight on the story, and he gave us this chunk about what the meaning behind Veilbound is. From what he explained, there is a veil around the player world, right? The world used to be humongous, right? And that's why there were so many different races, because there was just so much room for the entities to grow. But eventually, these people put a veil around a certain continent and locked us in there, right? We're stuck in the veil, and then these characters that go and they go beyond the veil and they do all this. I'm willing to make a second video on it if you guys are interested. That's if I make a second video though, because I'm gonna be honest, bro. I'm going through some stuff right now. I'll try to get through that first. But if you guys want a video on that, I'll probably be more than happy, because if I'm recording this one, that means I'm getting back into the swing of things. I'll probably be happy to do another one. But other than that, remember, hold your applaud. Ping me in the Discord. Tell me about how much you love me. Go to my DMs and send me like voice messages and saying, "We love you, we love you." Type shrimp. That's about it though. This was probably about as long as I expected, and have a good one, guys.